Let's talk about the Eufymake E1 UV printer that's doing a Kickstarter right now. I have some concerns and I want to share them with people. I first became aware of the Eufymake E1 printer probably months ago now, because they just did a barrage of ads on Facebook. And I have to admit, the idea of a home UV printer is extremely exciting for me. One of the things I do is collect old handheld arcade games. And the acrylic that's on here, the marks on here, you can see can tend to fade over time. And there's really nothing you can do, or if it gets scratched or something, there's really no way you can make a replacement for this, except maybe if you could UV print over a piece of tinted acrylic. So I thought that'll be really cool. And I make a ton of stuff. For those of you that don't know me or haven't looked at the channel, what makes you qualified, Mike, to even, to talk about this? So I've been into 3D printing since about 2013, backed tons of projects on Kickstarter, have 9 3D printers, resin, FDM, one I converted to chocolate, just make all kinds of stuff. I don't sell anything on Etsy. I have made, large batches of stuff for coworkers, mugs, shirts, stickers, etc. I'm one of the co-organizers of the Maker Faire Connecticut for its 9 years. I have 56 patents, so maybe theoretically I could be objective and evaluate systems and look at it. And again, you can learn more about me on this channel, or look at my projects page on ogrins.com, or some of my Instructables, or articles on Hackaday. I don't know. I hope that, again, I've been a lifelong crafter, maker, and I'm going to try and be impartial here. Some of that stuff, I've kind of put some stuff on the table here now, just so you get a wide shot before I get started. And this video was not sponsored, It's not sponsored by Cricut or Eufymake or Xtool or anybody. But again, I just want to talk about what people would use this printer for, what I was thinking I could use it for, and again, some of my thoughts, questions, comments, concerns. So I kind of have a table of props down here in front of me, and I'll just kind of be pulling stuff into view as it becomes relevant. And I got a lot of notes, so I'm gonna have to put my glasses on. Anyway, so like a lot of folks, I paid the $50 to get my early bird, spot in line, and waited anxiously for any pieces of information that would trickle out about this printer. And then I started watching. I'm in the Facebook groups. I'm trying to read as many posts as I can. I've been watching all the preliminary units that folks on YouTube, other makers are reviewing, and it just felt well. Let's just say that most of these Eufymake early access reviews make an Uncle Jesse Eligo review look impartial. And that's the 3D printer joke for this video. Now, Eufymake did not send me, who's Mike? Eufymake did not send me a review unit. So I'm going to just, constrain my comments to what's reasonable, which is what I see in the videos, what I read online, the information that I know about UV printing in general. Again, there's not going to be, speculation and things here. I'm going to be as honest with you as I can. And hopefully, if you are thinking about this printer, or maybe you've already backed it, this will convince you, either to keep your pledge or maybe to avoid making a pledge. The other thing is, this video is going to be in 2 parts. Part 1 is going to be just the concerns that I have, the questions that I still have that are still, sort of floating around out there. And they may be answered before the Kickstarter concludes, I realize that, but I still haven't pulled the trigger on backing my printer yet, and I have to say, honestly, I'm thinking I'm not. But I'm going to share those reasons with you. The second part of the video, it relates to things that you don't need the Eufymake to be able to make. I see a lot of the comments on Facebook. People are hating on dye-sub or hating on other methods of making stuff. And I'll show you some of these things that are being made on the Eufymake. You can make via other ways, for much cheaper, you know, including the cost of the printer and the cost of the ink, etc. And I will hopefully convince you that for some of the things, at least some of the comments that I'm reading, that there are other avenues for making stuff. Don't get me wrong, there's certain things you can only do on the Eufymake. Okay, so let's get into it. I need the glasses here. Apologies for any glare. Well, I assume by now, everybody, if you're here, you know what the Eufymake is. It's a UV printer. UV printers are typically very expensive for a number of reasons. And the consumables can be expensive, the maintenance can be time consuming, and most of the units only print in you know, 2 dimensions, flat like a typical inkjet. What is super intriguing about the Eufymake is it purports to be basically, you know, consumer friendly. You know, we've seen people doing this in the 3D printer world for years, probably, you know, Prusa first and then Bamboo were the most successful in making a more tinkerers or hackers technology more user friendly. And, you know, Eufymake is saying, you know, hey, look, we have this really easy to use product. Not only can it print in UV, and again, you can look elsewhere for all the cool advantages of UV printing. They're also saying this can print 2.5D. Now, or 2.5D, which I think is a little bit funny. You know, that's referring to the fact that they can print up to 5 millimeters in layers to give your print some texture. Now, that is really cool. I don't know if that counts as a whole half a dimension. Maybe by 2.5D, they meant, you know, that half stands for half a centimeter. I don't know. But so listen, let's get the first thing out of the way here. If that textured, you know, being able to have that brushstroke texture or, you know, skin type texture, you know, crocodile skin type or whatever if texture is important to what you're making, then, you know, okay, there's nothing I can say here that's going to convince you. That is definitely, I think, the killer feature of the Eufymake. Now, let's talk a second though about the textured stuff I'm seeing people print online. I'm seeing people print on, you know, like fake sort of canvas prints, texture, fine, flat, stiff, right? Metal, fine, again, you know, stiff, texture, phone cases, okay, maybe there might be some flex there. When I see people printing on, you know, leather, wallets, patches, you know, luggage tags, etc., what I don't see people doing in any of these review videos is just taking that material and just like, you know, maybe just bending it a little bit because, again, they're printing all the stuff. Oh, it's great. Look at this, you know, again, look at this leather cap patch I printed. What if it gets some flex? What if it gets bent? You know, what if you throw it in the back seat of the car and somebody sits on or something? I have to suspect that UV ink is going to crack. Now, maybe it is, and definitely if it's, you know, if it's thick, if it's, you know, 3 millimeters, 4 millimeters thick. Nobody's showing it in the video. So again, I invite the folks out there that have this printer, print on something flexible. Let's see you bend it a little bit and let's see what happens with the ink. The other thing I have on my list here, again, let's just talk about quality in general. We are seeing people, I'm seeing people in these videos almost universally. You know, they make something and they say, oh, it's really great. Look at this. Look how fantastic and vibrant the colors are, right? And they're moving very quickly. Now, I don't know if that's just inexperience shooting a video. I'd like to think it's not deliberate, but there are a couple of times when someone has done sort of a slow pan, particularly of mugs or thermoses, and it's very obvious that there's banding there. Now, you know, banding where you see the, you know, the lines through the print, just like in the early days of inkjet printing, we would see those, you know, those lines through the print. I'm just telling you what I see. I mean, this is what I'm seeing come off the printer. Again, I don't have a review unit. Maybe there are settings to be tweaked. Maybe Eufy is going to come back and say it's calibration. We'll fix it later. I don't know. But for me, for me, that's a non-starter, you know, seeing that quality. Because I should mention, I mean, one of the reasons that I was excited about this printer was, aside from the new capability, the texture, I'm hoping, or I was hopeful, that it could replace, you know, like 6 or 7 tools that I have in my home maker space here already. But again, I'm not sure about that now. Couple other items. So UV ink is not food safe. And if people are going to print, of course, you're going to print on the outside of a mug. That's fine. I don't know if it's going to flake off or not. I've heard people say that they have put the items through the dishwasher and it's flaked off. I've heard people say that that's not happened to them. I suspect, again, depending on what you're printing on, maybe on ceramic, which is not going to expand and contract that much, and in a heated dry cycle, maybe the ink is fine. Maybe something like a metal thermos might expand a little bit more. That might cause it to crack. By the way, I do think it's interesting on Eufymake's Kickstarter page where they show what how this stuff is going to look in 3 years. Obviously, we don't know, and you can put it in a simulator box or in some kind of environment. It's how they test vehicular paint and all these other things. But the reality is, we're not going to know in 3 years. We can't tell from a simulation now. Now, I will talk later in this video about, again, other techniques that I think are better than UV printing, that don't have this banding issue, and that I have personally used for 3+ years, and I will show you, what the wear is on there. So that remains to be seen, what the true longevity is here. Also, again, back to the food safety issue. Again, this means that you're not going to print this, or you shouldn't be. If it's a plate someone's going to eat off, on the inside, or a flat surface like that, that should be a warning. You can make it, but obviously you should not. Again, I mentioned flexible items and cracking. I mentioned the poor print quality. Just a small thing, the height limits of the machine. And again, I'll get into this in part 2 when I talk about other making techniques that you can have. It is great that there's these exchangeable, interchangeable beds, and that there is decent height to the machine to print some stuff. But at the end of the day, you are constrained by that space inside the machine. So you're not going to personalize somebody's carry-on luggage or something with this. But there are other tools, again, that will let you do that. I'll talk about that in part 2. Fabric. I've always really, besides a UV printer, I've always really wanted a DTF, direct-to-fabric printer. This is not it. I mean, it's not a substitute. A couple of YouTubers have shown they've printed on pieces of fabric, and they say, well, I don't know how you'd get a shirt flat or something. To me, it's obvious. Get a block of wood, rubber band the shirt around it, put it in the printer, and print on an actual shirt. Don't cut out a square from the middle or a square of canvas. You want to do shirts? I could see. I mean, Eufy says it's not for printing on fabrics. It looks like you could do it. I'd love to see some people just actually put a block of wood in a shirt, put it in the machine and print on it. But again, I think that maybe the ink does not have any kind of stretch or flexibility to it. So I think that would be a problem. I don't know what it would, do, in the long term, how well it would hold up in washes. So that's one of the concerns that I have. Now, moving on to a couple other items which Eufy has sort of answered in some of the forums. One is this need to be connected all the time. Initially they said, yes, you do need to be connected. Now they have said recently, we want to have a solution, or we will provide a solution for areas of poor connectivity. Now that's not the same as saying we're going to let you use this without our servers for as long as you want. For me, that is really a hard line for me. I have bought products before, IoT, Internet of Things items, appliances, devices. The company goes belly up or they drop support for it. I'm just thinking of the Nix color sensor right now, and I had to rebuy it. They stopped supporting my model. That was actually a previous Kickstarter I backed. The device was great. My device just was deprecated. So that's really hard unless they definitively say, it's kind of cagey to say, we'll give you a solution for poor connectivity. I want to definitively know that I can use this offline forever. Now, I imagine this has more to do with their software than it does with the, with the hardware itself. So again, waiting to hear some answers there. The other item is the high operating cost to this thing. Now, we know that the ink cartridges are smallish, let's say, and you can watch some of the YouTubers and people are going through how much ink they've used and the cost, etc. But this is like early inkjet printer days. Those cartridges have a little chip in there. They're locked. You're not supposed to be able to refill them. Everybody's kind of winking at the camera and saying, we're going to figure out how to inject our own ink into here. And that may happen. Well, again, we'll cross our fingers, but it looks like the operating costs of this machine are going to be high, especially if you're trying to run a business on it. And the fact that it basically has to constantly clean itself so that, you know, the ink doesn't clog. And yes, I know it'll shut down after, you know, a few weeks or whatever. It'll go into hibernation mode. But meanwhile, you got to basically leave this thing plugged in 24/7. The other thing is Eufy recently said, again, I think they've heard this concern. And so they've said, we're going to provide like a bigger ink tank solution for people. They did not say we're going to let you bring your own ink to the party. All they said is we're going to maybe give you larger tanks or an external tank solution. So again, I think they've answered with a non-answer. And finally, let's talk about smell. UV printing smells. It smells. No one is talking about it in their YouTube videos. Come on, put your nose in there and take a whiff. I don't know why people aren't mentioning it. And it's weird to me, you know, of course you have to operate it a lot of times with the, you know, the doors down for depending on what you're making. Now again, Eufy has come back and said we're going to have some kind of VOC, volatile organic compound, you know, some kind of, you know, air filtration solution. I don't know how that's going to work. I'd like to see it before I back the product, because if you've essentially got to operate the thing with the sides down, I don't know how a fan, you know, how that's going to be enclosed for printing some larger material. So again, it's another 3 big questions that the community has been asking, 3 kind of answers / non-answers from Eufy. So that's basically part 1. Those are all the concerns that I have. You know, it's crazy, in the short period of time that this product has been around, it has really attracted a lot of zealots, for lack of a better word. You know, folks online that say I've backed out of my pledge, you know, they're immediately jumped on, why did you announce it here? You know, and they talk about some of the issues that I brought up. And so, listen, there's probably going to be a lot of hate in the comments. Again, I know a lot of people have just invested so much hope and belief in this that they really don't want to see that questioned by someone, and you know, especially somebody who doesn't even have the printer. I'm just trying to get you to look at these YouTube videos a little bit more closely, because it's important, you know, what's not being said or what's not being shown, just as much as some of the fantastic results that are being shown. So again, best of luck if you decide to buy this printer. Now I'm going to talk though about some alternatives that you may or may not be aware of that will do a lot of the things that the Eufymake can do. And in fact, a lot of things you can do that the Eufymake can't do. And I think, let me see, I think I took some notes here. I added up some prices. Okay, so let's just quickly jump in here. I'm going to talk about dye sublimation. I know, the oldest thing, and this is not going to be like a how-to video. I'm just going to give you some quick hits of things you can do and give you some quick examples I have from the table in front of me here. Dye sublimation, screen printing, vinyl cutting. I have down here in front of me my OG Cricut maker. Anyway, you can get, you know, dye sub ink is super cheap. I've retrofit an Epson printer into a dye sub printer, 27 bucks. Dye sublimation transfer paper, 15 bucks. For silk screening, here, we're just going to jump right in. I make my own, you know, screens, super cheap. My daughter got me a little speedball starter kit. I still use the terrible plastic squeegee it came with, 55 bucks. Again, my Cricut, here it is, my OG Cricut maker. I think the new model is 350 bucks. You can get a coupon for that. And then I have a cheap heat press from China. Was cheap, you know, pre-tariffs. It was like 150 bucks, and I got a giant flat heat bed. I got a mug press. I got, you know, attachments for different kind of thermoses and things here. And the total cost of all the stuff. I'm going to tell you how to make a bunch of stuff. The total cost, factoring in the price of the printer as well, $745 to be able to do lots of stuff. Some better than the Eufymake, just based on the videos that I have seen, and I just know because of the limitations of the machine, and all of this, you don't need an active internet connection to use it, and the cost to produce this stuff, dirt cheap, not super expensive ink. We're talking, you know, again, 27 bucks to fill my printer, you know, twice over with dye sub ink. Obviously, the price of the blanks, sublimation blanks, you know, the speedball, the silk screening paint is cheap. And then the Cricut can cut all kinds of stuff, and you know, that stuff is cheap as well. So let's just go rapid fire through some of this stuff. The Eufymake is not, maybe it could print on fabric, I don't know. If you're doing fabric, you have a couple of options. Again, the aforementioned silk screening. I just use scrap wood. I get some bridal veil fabric here. I use photo emulsion, so I make these screens myself. I mean, they cost nothing. And the results I get are fantastic. Again, I'm an amateur. Oh, and I'm not going to do the Eufymake creator thing here. Look, let's look really closely. There's the shirt. Maybe I could have done a slightly little bit better job on the S, but silk screening, super sharp. Have washed this thing a bunch of times. This shirt, have made it, washed it a bunch. Now you're saying, yeah, but the Eufymake is multicolor. Of course, I do most of my designs are simple. Again, you got to think like what you want to do and you know what these alternatives can do. You can do multicolor silk screening. I usually do 1 or 2 colors. I think the most I ever did was 3. But that's one really great alternative to making stuff on any kind of fabric. Let's talk about mugs. I thought, oh, this is going to be so much easier to print on the mugs with the Eufymake. But again, dye sub. I see people hating on dye sub on Facebook. This is a dye sub mug. Now, my friend Mark made this for Maker Faire, Connecticut. Super sharp. There are no little lines or anything on there. Now, but let me show you a different mug. This is my mug because I said I was going to talk about duration. This is my daily mug here, Ogren's Labs. I made this mug more than 3 years ago. It's been through the dishwasher hundreds of times. And it is as great as it was the day I made it. I mean, there's no fading, there's no wear, it's food safe. And they make you can get dye. It's funny that the vases or tumblers and things that I see people using on the Eufymake, they look like dye sub blanks already. They're typically white. You can get clear dye sub blanks also. So if you've had trouble with, again, I'm using the cheapest dye sub setup. I'm not using like the Cricut mug press. I'm using this cheap press I have from China. I'm using a converted Epson printer because I'm a cheapskate, right? I'm trying to do this as cheaply as possible and make all this stuff as easily as possible. And you know, again, if you tape your design down, you let it cool, etc., you can get fantastic results with dye sub. You don't need the fancy auto leveling mechanism for thousands of dollars. You can just do it with a cheap heat press, and you can do other stuff with a heat press. You can get almost anything that I see made on the Eufymake. You can get dye sub blanks. I've seen hat patches, luggage tags, Christmas ornaments, metal. I'll show you that in a second. And if something isn't sublimatable, like you want to do like a cotton shirt or something, as opposed to usually you have to have like some kind of mixed polyester blend. There are various sprays. Now I will say of differing quality. But there are treatments that you can do, even on wood and other materials, to make it sublimatable. And for example, you could sublimate right onto this hat. What's something else? There's I've got like mouse pads and things that you can get. Can you do that on the Eufy? Some of that stuff, yes. What's something that you can't do on the Eufymake? Well, how's it going to work for a concave design like this? How's it going to ever print inside there? But you can get dye sub blanks like this, and you can get heating pad attachments again for the press, and you can make that. And the best thing is you could eat off that plate because it would be safe with dye sub, as opposed to even if you could print that plate on the Eufymake. And what about the weird stuff that doesn't fit inside that area? You can get tinier little heat presses like the whatever this is called, the Easy Press Mini from Cricut. If you wanted to, I mentioned, right, like somebody's got a giant white carry-on piece of luggage. Again, a lot of materials are naturally are compatible with the sublimation process. So if you've got something really huge that doesn't fit in the machine, again, you can get their giant heat press here, for example. Again, not a paid endorsement. I'm just saying there are other methods to work with dye sub. What else did I want to show you with dye sub? Stickers. I read a number of comments online where people talk. They're like, finally, they're giving you this whole demo. A lot of the makers are showing you this demo where they're making stickers and you're buying their laminator and stuff. And people in the comments are writing, finally, I'll be able to make high quality stickers. You can buy sublimatable sticker paper. So for example, here is, I made these B9 robot stickers from Lost in Space. And again, you can look at the quality here. I'll try and get it with the light. Maybe one was a little bit faded. You know, I have no reason to quickly flash it up here. You know, you can take a look at it. And I can take, so these stickers I printed, and I print them on dye sub paper. I put them in the Cricut, and I make a little kiss cut, you know, around the stickers here so that I can just peel them off, hopefully. So this sticker is printed on a transparent, you know, vinyl. I just got a little piece of scrap metal here, and I'll put this sticker on it. So that's what it looks like. And you might say, well, Mike, that's not so great. And by the way, this isn't the printing on metal demo yet. We'll get to that in a second. But you're like, oh, okay, that's all right. You know, I want to see something more vibrant. So I made these stickers. These are little robot mission patch stickers. And I didn't sublimate them on a sheet of clear vinyl. I sublimated these on, opaque white vinyl sticker paper. So that's what they look like. And again, kiss cut them out so I can just peel them off. I'll put a couple on here. Just peel them off. So you can make, and I don't have to laminate it or, you know, need another machine. I mean, so I'm really trying to avoid the glare there. But so that's, you don't need a UV printer to make stickers. You can get, I forget what I paid, maybe 15 bucks for 20 or 30 sheets of this. And maybe I'll cut in a little bit of video here later. These are completely waterproof. I can rub these with alcohol and they'll be fine. So again, let's see some of the folks who are reviewing the early access units. Let's see you take some of these things that you've printed on the stickers. Let me just see you rub them with some alcohol. I want to just see how clean they are. I want to know if they smudge or they smear. Let's see a little torture test on the ink at home to see how that works out. Now, printing on metal. When I made my, so Dr. Theopolis is this robot from the old Buck Rogers TV show, and I built a replica of that. And the backing plate of Dr. Theopolis, it needs to be a little stiff. You're mounting some 3D printed parts to the front and some lights and things. And some people print it on paper and they cut that out and they glue it over wood or something else stiff. I wanted it to look really nice, so I got some dye sublimation compatible metal, and I wanted it white. You can get clear as well. I mean, anytime you buy one of these, metal on photo on metal printing places, that's all it is dye sub. You can get this stuff super cheap. So again, I'm just going to show you the raw plate here. I think I smudged it a little bit here on the edge, but that in this case, I just wasn't being too careful around the edge because I cut it out with a pair of metal snips. But that's what it looks like, and there's no print lines or anything in there. This is indestructible. Dye sublimation. The ink is like, inside the actual coating itself. Oh, and gosh, we're getting to the end here, but let's just not forget the good old Cricut itself. You can do all kinds of stuff with the Cricut. You can, you can cut stuff. You can emboss stuff. You can score stuff. You can put pens in and have it draw stuff. Those pens can be with their infusible ink line, which is dye sublimation, so you can use those items as well. You can use all kinds of cool exotic materials, like you can have heat transfer vinyl that's glittery like this or that's shiny like this. Obviously with the Eufymake, you're constrained to the colors of ink that are in the tank. You're not going to get these glitter or gold effects. And you can get glow-in-the-dark material. The same for the silk screening also, you can get glow-in-the-dark ink. So you can make all kinds of things without the Eufymake. As I've said, the one thing, let's just be fair to them at the end. If you want to print on something flat, and it's important to you that texture, that's your killer app, that's your killer feature, then nothing that I've shown you here today can duplicate that. That is the one really cool item about it. You can get sublimatable blanks that already have a texture to them, again, like a crocodile skin or something like that. And, so for phone cases, for light switches, and certain items. So if that's all you want, you don't need the Eufymake. But if you want I've seen some amazing pieces of art on wood, on canvas, where it simulates the brush strokes, of course. That's not going to be something that you can do with the techniques that I'm showing you here. But bear in mind, again, still the concerns, even with that cool capability, the cost of the material, the vendor lock-in, the VOCs, the volatile organic compounds, the maintenance. We don't really know what the long-term warranty or maintenance or repair solution like this is going to be. The vendor support, we don't know. So just keep that in mind. Oh, one other thing I did want to also address, there was one other thing that I wanted to address, because I've also seen in the comments people saying they're dropping out because they don't trust Kickstarter. Now, I've backed, I don't know if it's 100, but I've backed many Kickstarters, again, going back to like 2012. And most of them have come through, some have failed. And I do think if you are backing this on Kickstarter, if you're one of the folks who is nervous because it's on Kickstarter, this is I'm 95% sure that this product is going to be delivered. I mean, they've shipped, they obviously have a working product already. They're just in the final refinement stages. They're not using Kickstarter as a fundraising platform. Eufy is associated with Anker. They have a ton of money in the bank. This is more of a marketing platform for them, maybe even creating a little bit of buzz, a little artificial scarcity. So if you're concerned, again, I can't guarantee Kickstarter, so I'm saying 95%, but I'm pretty comfortable that, they are going to deliver. So it shouldn't be a question of, am I going to actually get this print or not? If you back it, I think you will get it. The real question is, given what we don't know about it, given what I've seen with some of the, especially in terms of some of that print quality with the banding, and the concern that, they have not come out and guaranteed that there is no vendor lock-in on this. I mean, I'd love to see it even opened up to third-party developers. That's my big concern right now, and that's why I'm leaning towards not backing it. But again, I will watch it up until the final days before I make my decision. I hope this has been helpful. If there are, questions, comments, thoughts you have, let's keep it civil, please. There's plenty of fantastic coverage of Eufymake out there. I'm just trying to give a little counterpoint. But please feel free to leave any thoughts you have in the comments. And hey, check out my other channel while you're here. You might find some of the other stuff I make interesting. Take care. No problem whatsoever, but let's take a little bit of alcohol here, rubbing alcohol. Get that good and saturated, and let's just rub it on there, see if anything happens. No, nothing happens. These vinyl decals are indestructible.